Hey guys, hello everyone, hello to all viewers and travelers. Today we are going to walk through Porto in Portugal, in the north of the country. This is another online journey provided by Join Pro. First of all, I'll remember you that on every online excursion, every online journey, we are getting the chance to win $100. All you need to do is to pay attention to our walk and to pay attention to the questions I'm going to refer during our excursion. There will be 5 questions. It's important to get some correct answers, but anyway, by the end of our live journey, about an hour after that, uh, by the method of uh, randomly selecting numbers, the winner will be announced in commentaries. So be active, pay attention, and enjoy this online journey. On the moment you're looking to the Porto Cathedral, or how we call it, Sé, we will get back in a moment to this main church of the city. First, I would like to present myself. So I'll just turn the camera, and here I am. My name is Vasily. I'm a local, even that my foreign name tells you that originally I'm from a different country. That's true. I'm from Eastern Europe originally, but I'm living so many times in Portugal that I consider myself a local. And Porto was the city where I grew. Porto was the city where I studied, and the city where I planted, I would say, some cultural roots. On the moment I'm living already in Lisbon. Time changes, and always in this life we do some changes. But Porto will be always in my heart. And today, with all the pleasure, I would like to show some of the highlights of this city. And we will start from a different view. I'll just turn around. Since I'm on a hill, I would like to show you what you can see far there. You see a tower, this beautiful tower that is considered the highest in the north of Portugal. This is a monument and chef-d'œuvre made by an Italian architect, Niccolò Nasoni, that in the 18th century came to Porto by request to work and to remodel the cathedral. Uh, After remodeling the cathedral, after introducing the Baroque style into the cathedral, that we're going to talk just after a moment. Um, After that, he got another work that it's this beautiful tower he built with an height of 75 meters to show, I would say, somehow the power, to show the symbol of the city and the importance, because Porto is considered the capital of the north. A bit on the left from my side, you see a beautiful church out there. You see also a building with some Baroque style that used to be back in time. Imagine that beautiful building back there used to be in time a prison. Today, this is the center of photography here in Porto. During our walk, I would like to show you the oldest part of the city, because where we see there the tower, where we see that beautiful building, this is Porto, but more, I'll say, modern part of the city. Of course, you find there history that you see in buildings, because most of them are from the 18th or 19th century. Uh, but it's a part of the city where you probably will enjoy mostly the nightlife, because very close to the tower you will find free streets, free parallel streets, where there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of discos, wine bars, where you can mix with locals, where you can find some secrets about the local life. Because here, especially in the north, the people, it's very, very friendly. And being a tourist, being a traveler, and finding yourself in Porto, you'll be somehow obliged to get in touch with the locals, because they do like to ask you where you're coming from, what are you doing, what do you like in the city. They accept every critic. Today, despite the big size of the city, I would like to move to the core, or the part of the city where Porto actually was born, here on the hill, very close to the cathedral. So let's just get back to the cathedral and start our journey. The part of the cathedral you saw start is more about the Baroque style, even that in the construction, also we can see elements dating back to 12th century and also to the 15th and 16th century, because the cathedral was remodeled along centuries. But when we talk about uh, the burning of the cathedral, this is the 12th century, where in the whole Portugal, a Reconquista is going, and we are taking advantage of repulsing the Moors and constructing our slowly. And I would like to show you that entrance to the cathedral that was the main work of Niccolò Nasoni, that Italian architect that was called to Portugal to improve some facades and to build after that tower. After building the tower, by the way, many aristocrats, I'll say like that, liked pretty much his work and invited him to build their own villas, we can say like that, outside of the city. Remembering about questions, probably I will address you already our first question. That is, Porto. It's located on a river called, and you'll have four answers. I'll repeat the question. Porto, the city of Porto, is located on a river. Of course, a small part of Porto, it's located also on the Atlantic. But the main city, the city center, the old city, it's located on a river that is called, and you'll answer me, what's the name of the river? Getting back to the cathedral, I would like to show the main entrance where we see beautiful columns, and also we see this, how they call it, rose from the Gothic time. So we have here different improvements. The main two columns, this one on the left, where you see the bell tower, this one from the right, these two are dating back to the 12th century. And then when we see the center, the rows, this is already the 15th and a bit of the 16th century. And then just close to the door from the left and from the right, you see these columns. These ones are dating already from 18th century. That's the work of Niccolò Nasoni. Of course, he improved also the interior of the church. Uh, he he left, I will say, an immense heritage of sacred art, paintings. So when in Porto, do visit the cathedral, spend at least some 10 minutes to enjoy this beautiful art of the 18th century. Talking about history, talking about centuries and architects, I would like to tell you that I'll be the minimalist possible on dates and centuries today. I don't want you to load with a lot of info because I'm not a history book. I mean, I do am, but I will not show myself today as a history book. I want you to feel today with myself as with a local. And for this walk, I chose the rayon, the neighborhood that is located very close to the cathedral. Here on the hill where the cathedral is located, Porto was born. Porto already showed activity since Romans, since centuries before Christ. And of course, always Porto showed the activity around this hill that goes down to the river. And precisely this part, the oldest part of the city, I want to show you, where different narrow streets will bring us back to centuries such as 14, 15, and 16. Where do people live? And I'd like to show you how do they live. And here we'll start our journey. This part of the city is called Sé. The name comes from the cathedral because all the main churches, all the cathedrals in Portugal are called Sé. It's pretty simple. That comes from Latin, that means Cidadius Episcopaemum. That's sort of the place of the bishop, the place of the main bishop. In that case, every city, quite every city of Portugal, has his main church and a main bishop. In a short abbreviature, this is Sé. So the neighborhood where I will walk is also called Sé. And step by step, I want to arrive to the river. So I'll go down this hill and will admire these houses and locals that lives on the foothill. Of course, we'll start from a viewpoint because there are many here located. Probably you saw already some locals. People are outside. Thanks God, the coronavirus disease is getting with steps back, and we can be back also to our normal life to enjoy the beautiful weather, to enjoy probably a beer outside with our friends. And I hope that this is happening all around the world, getting closer to our viewpoint. I'll remind you that Porto it's a pretty big city, and we're going to walk through a small part, the oldest, as I mentioned. And I would like to show that precise river, the name I asked before. Getting closer, admiring this small minute of silence. Getting closer. I'll try to show you. Already can see this small part of the river. I'll point with my finger right here. You can see the river that flows and where Porto is located. And our goal, just to remind you, is to get over there on the right bank of the river and to admire another heritage that Porto is famous for. You probably heard about, you probably tried it. I'm talking about port wine. So you're ready to walk with me up to the river? Let's go. Let's do it. Just a few words about the history and about this neighborhood, how it was born. Of course, in the 14th and the 15th century, here close to the cathedral on the main part of the city used to live rich people. I probably can say that, despite the fact that today there's no poor people living here. They're just normal people or workers, um, worker class people. Since at some point, as I understand, with the evolution of the transport, such as carries, such as then vehicles, cars, at some point people was not so comfortable to move through these streets. You see, this is pretty tight here, and the streets are narrow. It's quite difficult, as you imagine, to drive in a carry or to drive. You see now the locals passing here. It's other people live. They're all happy. As I told you before, in Porto, especially in the north of Portugal, of course, without saying that the south, the center, or the rest of the country is bad. No, not at all. But especially in Porto and especially in the north, people do have this extra gentleness, do have this extra friendship attached. They really care about what you're doing and you feel comfortable or not. They do really care about that. And I'm reminding a small passage, a small moment that I witnessed it in 2010, back 10 years back. It was a couple searching for some point of interest. I'll just pass quickly first through these locals because they're a bit loud. Sorry. Olá, boa tarde. Okay. So I'm reminding a moment in back in 2010 where a couple of travelers, a couple of tourists, were looking for a point of interest, or maybe for a restaurant, a monument. I don't know exactly. And they were looking to the map and then raising the head, looking to the left, looking to the right, in search of that point. And at a certain moment, a local lady, an old lady, just came by them and asked if she can help with finding something. And I said, "Oh, that's okay. We think we're good. We'll find it." And she insisted, "No, I want to help you, and I will do that." So she was like literally getting them by hand, like in the kindergarten, and taking them to that point. So such gentleness and such friendship you still can admire in the north. It's something typical, I would say. It's something in the ADN of the people. And take a look at that, guys. This is, as you see, a rock, and this part of the city, especially the neighborhood Sé and the lower one, the neighborhood Ribeira, was built on these granitic walls, on these slate walls, step by step, and that's how the uh, city raised uh, closer to the cathedral. Even you see the walls inside, there's practically granite, and inside, of course, we have some structures in wood. And a part of the wood and the granite or slate, we have nothing more. Of course, today we have already some doors and metal. That's different. But the main material here is granite, as you can see, and wood. Of course, you can see also something very typical here in Porto, especially. It's drying the clothes outside, and you will think probably that today how that happened in the 21st century. We have machines, we have laundries, very revolutionary laundries and stuff. I will tell you a small secret. What happens is that the size of the apartments may differ from one to another, of course. Back in time, it used to be a standard, but imagine you had a small apartment, then suddenly your neighborhood disappeared or said, okay, I'm going to Brazil because I have some affairs, I have business, and I don't care about my home. And you buy his apartment, the neighbor one, you will crush the wall and then you create a bigger apartment. So I will not tell you about the standard you may find here because they really differ. And in fact, being of course, small inside and having so much humidity because we're close to the river and not so far from the Atlantic, and having not so much sun here, it's first, of course, easier to dry the clothes outside to get some sun, to get some fresh wind. And this tradition is kept until today. And I think I'm ready to address you the second question in a moment. And our second question is we'll talk a bit about gastronomy. And the question is what's the name of the famous sandwich city of Porto is known for? Because when we travel, and I know that perfectly, when we travel, we do like to admire monuments. We do like to visit museums. We do like to, I would say, drink a bit of local history to get in touch with locals. But all that is impossible if we are not enjoying the local gastronomy. And that was the question about gastronomy. I'll repeat. What's the famous sandwich Porto is known for? And thinking about the river, thinking about the city being located on a river, I just reminded a very short story that dates back to Romans. Uh, who was here? That's sort of a legend, but still many historians likes to provide it. There's about the Julius Caesar that you all know, probably the famous emperor of Rome. What happens is that Julius Caesar, before becoming an emperor, he's been here very close to the city of Porto. He used to be in the Douro Valley, and Douro, that named also the river, derives from two terms. Some historians are saying that it comes from duro, that means hard. So we talk about the slate and we talk about the granite that dominates as a soil type here in the north. The second opinion, and this one is linked with Julius Caesar. What happens is that there used to be a lot of gold in the Douro Valley, where the river flows. So made of gold means de ouro. Ouro is gold, so made of gold, de ouro. And some historians are saying that he extracted so much gold that when he got back to Rome, he paid all his debts, and after that, he became an emperor. Getting back to history and to our neighborhood of Sé, about the people that lives here today, as I mentioned, it's I'll say a pretty simple people. These are families, of course, all of them works. So you don't find luxurious villas. As I understood, and I'll show you, we always have these steps. So it's I would say, impossible to drive the Lamborghini or Maserati on these streets. So when in Porto, don't take the car to explore the core of Porto, because here we're only walking, and don't forget also talking, because people love that. They want to talk with you. They want to know what you're doing, and if you do like to spend time here in Porto. It's very important for them. Even that you will say, no, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't like this part. I don't like this kind of condition. They'll always get you an answer. They will try maybe to help you. And of course, uh, those narrow streets, you'll find also bars, cafes. You'll always have time to take a seat, take a coffee. Such a beautiful coffee you can drink in Portugal for only 60 or 70 cents. That's, in fact, amazing, told by many travelers. And when we think about gastronomy, I was telling before, you have so many. You have so many dishes. You have so many to explore in the local cuisine. You have some typical dishes as the sandwich I mentioned, along with many other uh, gastronomy gems. I can call them even like that. And since we're being located not so far from the Atlantic, there's always place for fresh fish, for octopus. Such a delicious grilled octopus is made in Portugal by local restaurants. And I think I'm ready to give you the third question. Otherwise, you probably will forget, but you all know that the active ones who will answer correctly and the lucky ones that will be generated by the randomly numbers will got the prize of $100 by Join Pro. And the third question it's about an architecture or a designer, an engineer that you all know. This man was responsible for the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Of course, we're talking about Gustave Eiffel. Gustav Eiffel, probably heard about. He's been in Porto also. He had his bureau, his office. He really liked to be here in Porto, and he left one construction. Porto uh, have six bridges on the moment that links the city and the city satellite on another bank of the river, that is the city of Gaia. Among these six bridges, one of the bridge is attributed to Gustav Eiffel talent. And you'll tell me what's the name of the bridge. That's the third question. Which of six Porto bridges is attributed to Gustav Eiffel? Step by step, walking through these narrow streets, we are getting to one of the main large streets that will guide us to the river. And if talking about or remembering about festivities or which of the time is better to visit Porto, probably you asked yourself. Porto all year round is nice to be visited because in summer you have a lot of activities to do. In autumn, also, you can go to the famous Douro Valley where you can harvest grapes and you can assist to the port making. And in fact, Douro is such a beauty that in 2001 was classified by UNESCO as World Heritage for the uh, monumental beauty of the nature of the landscape. Of course, all that was built by man, but that was a hard work, I can tell you, as a sommelier. And if you come in spring, you also have a perfect time, and you can uh, spend it by visiting again all the monuments. You can walk on the streets, and even in winter you'll always have to do something, so all year around. But if I'll pick a special date that I uh, enjoy exceptionally, that's the summer, that's June, that's the 23rd and 24th of June. That's the main festivity of the city of Porto, and it's dedicated to the Saint John, uh, that is considered the main saint of the city. The Saint John, the one you know from the Bible, the one who baptized Christ, this one is the main saint of the city. During this festivity, all these streets that we walked before, because you see now, we already see cars, we already got to the main road. Uh, on the previous streets, it's quite impossible. And between those locals back there, those narrow streets, of course, as in the whole city, everyone is grilling outside sardines, they're grilling some pork, they're serving some beer, they're serving wine and port wine, and everybody is practicing this festivity. Music everywhere, and from 23rd night up to the late in the morning of 24th already, people is practicing this festivity. And one of the traditions that comes back Romans before Christianism was to kick each other with a bunch of garlics. So the garlics will be aligned in a special form to imitate the masculinity, let's say like that, or the symbol of fertility and masculinity. Nowadays, we're not using garlic because, well, maybe someone is allergic to garlic, and that used to be a long time ago. So today, as analogic, we are using hammers, not real ones. Don't be scared. These are plastic hammers. They are very light, and we still continue to kick each other on head by showing some sympathy and by showing that we are all uh, full of joy and we're happy to uh, practice this festivity. You see already that the river is there, and we're moving directly to that beautiful river. We'll see some uh, pieces of museum uh, because I always call this part an open air museum where we see these pieces, and we'll talk a bit about the port wine. I presume you're all interested about this famous fortified wine. I'll just remind, probably I haven't tell per complete initially that I'm living for a very long time in Portugal. I am a guide and I'm also a sommelier. And I'll probably getting closer to the fourth question that is also linked with gastronomy, precisely the port wine. Every traveler, I think, among all viewers and travelers that are watching me now, uh, have been in Porto already, and you probably tried port. But do you know? And that's the fourth question. Do you know where do actually port wine is made? Where do port is made? Where he starts? Okay, that's the fourth question. Is not pretty big if compared to other cities of Portugal. And usually, when people ask me, "Hey, Vasily, do we need to rent a car maybe to drive the whole city?" Of course, if you want to go by the ocean, or if you want to go far from Porto to see that wild Atlantic, yes, you will need a car probably. Or if you want to go to Douro Valley, that is about 100 kilometers from here, where still the river flows, you'll definitely need a car. But let's not forget about the public transport that works pretty well um, if you want to visit different parts of the city. But if we talk about the center, including the neighborhood Sé that we walked before, if including that part of the city where you saw the tower and the discos and the nightlife, everything is possible to do by walking, and that will tell that will take you. I'm sorry, about I don't know, about one and a half hour, maybe 2 hours. So it's pretty walkable, and that's the pretty of the city. a very important fact about Porto and his downtown and uh, his historic part. Everything is classified as UNESCO World Heritage since 1996. Already 24 years, everything is protected. Because when you see Porto from uh, and viewpoint, for example, on the other side of the river, you just take a viewpoint and you admire all this beauty, all this puzzle of layers that dates back to many centuries. That definitely will not let you without emotions. And that's what happened probably with UNESCO when they classified Porto as the World Heritage. In fact, it's true. While walking in Porto, you always can admire houses that was built in the 14th century. Imagine in 1357 or in 1386, and then suddenly you pass by and you see already buildings that were built in 18 zeros or 20 centers. Everything is mixed and goes like, I'll say a cake by different layers. And you see that, and it's pretty beautiful. Such the building here, for example, if there's people watching us from London or people generally from England, you'll probably know this, I call it Paladin style, this neoclassic, typical English style, where you see there was the use of granite, there was the use of slate, and this building is pretty important for port shippers. This is the uh, British port factory or the English port factory, a sort of building where port wine traders, the main players on the market, such as Graham's or Taylor's or Croft or Ferrera, for example, join every Wednesday for a lunch and they discuss what they need to improve, what they need to add in the port wine world just to get it higher and most famous. So we're going to cross the street and we move gently to the river. Today we have a pretty sunny day. There's a very beautiful weather. I've admired already in the morning people on the beach taking some bath. Uh, and talking about the Atlantic and the bath, I will open also a small secret because there's a lot of travelers coming to Porto or any other city on the Atlantic, and they think that it's so easy just to go and to dive. Yes, physically it's like that, but don't forget that the Atlantic is huge and it doesn't get so warm as an sea, for example, Mediterranean Sea. So be minded of the fact that the Atlantic per norma have about 18 and 16 and 18 degrees Celsius. So if outside there's about 30 or 32 Celsius, that's okay. You dive, you refresh yourself, but you get back because per norma you will not stay so much unless you have that body costume of an surfer. This part already is called Ribeira. So we left from the Sé neighborhood. I remind you, Sé, because of the cathedral, is located on the foothill, and we are getting close to the river. And every part that it's located on the river's bank, in Portuguese we call Ribeira. A river, Riviera, Rio, and Ribeira. So the part close to the city we call Ribeira. Here, you also can admire a lot of locals. Here, you can, I would say, lost yourself among immersive, narrow streets and old buildings. But on this part of the city, you already find very modern restaurants. I would say one of the best restaurants of the city are located here in Ribeira. But pay attention, they usually do not have this view directly to the river. Of course, just some of them, but the best ones are a bit hidden. So don't be lazy, walk a bit, talk with locals, or consult a guide, or send me a question. I'll always be glad to answer you and to guide you to the best restaurants for a truly genuine experience of local food and great wines and port, of course. So you see people walking around. Everybody is busy with something, and that's good. We are getting back from that quarantine, stayed at home. We did it pretty well. You probably heard about the Latin miracle, how we were called by French journals, by German journals. We did pretty well before starting the mandatory quarantine. Portuguese already locked down at home, and they waited to for the normality because we all know that everything gets an end, and soon, happy again, we'll get to our travels. We're getting close to restaurants, as you can see. Here you find already some terraces. Uh, these sort of terraces are always good, for example, to take a beer, to take a coffee. That's okay. When we talk about getting a meal, my advice, my true advice as a local is to consult really well a guide, to consult really well opinion of a local or maybe from the hotel concierge about where to get a meal. Because, as you understand, I think in every part of the world, these pretty places sometimes are not so agreeable with the food. I like to show you also this beautiful street right here. For example, on this street here, you find many fine restaurants. I'll get back to the river. Maybe some of you will remember when coming to Porto. There's a pretty loud dog here with a local. I'm sorry for the noise. So the river is right here, and here we have the Hotel Pestana, an impressive five-star hotel. And right on a corner, this street will guide you to some very fine restaurants. And I'll probably address you the fifth question because you need to be entertained with the questions too. And you need to remember that at all we have five questions today. So the last one was about port, and the fifth question and the last already question will be about Portugal, entirely Portugal generally. We'll talk a bit about the capital. And the question says, which of these cities, unfortunately, and that's my word, unfortunately, had never a status of capital? In Portugal, I will open you a small secret. In Portugal, we had many capitals. Okay, today and already for a long time, the capital is the same. You probably know it, I'm sure. But back in time when the Kingdom of Portugal was born, there were several cities that hosted the status of capital. And one of these cities, unfortunately, was never, despite the fact that it deserves from any point of view, but never. And getting back to our excursion, we arrived already to this beauty. I'm showing you now two of the bridges that you can see made in iron. This bridge have some connection with Eiffel, not so much as you think, but still a bit of the influence of Eiffel you can see here. And anyway, the bridge was built not by him, so that's a small secret. And the bridge dates back to 1881. That was the year of 1881. The bridge started to be active. And then there's a short story, a funny story about this bridge told by the locals. Of course, we do not find that on books, we don't find that on historians, but there's a pretty funny story told by locals that says the next. So the bridge was already over, and it was ready uh, to host cars, something like that, and to start activity already in April of 1881. At the time, in Portugal, the king was Louis the First, and the only one. There were no more Louis the First, and the birthday of Louis used to be in October. The bridge was ready already in April, and the mayor of the city hall said, "Hey guys, Louis likes so much the city of Porto," and that's true. There's actually a very it's sad, I'll say, story about Porto and the royalty, the court, and the kings. Didn't show so much effect for Porto along the history. Just few kings for Norma showed some effect and some love and some care. Despite that, Porto per Norma developed himself as a trade city. That's why the people here are called as the true workers. And of course, let's not forget about the business linked to the port wine. And the mayor of the city hall at the time, in 1881, proposed to the people to thank somehow King Louis for his respect for Porto, and to open the bridge in 1881, but in October. And the people said, well, we'll spend a summer without the bridge and we need it so much, but of course, we'll wait for that. So we want to see the king happy. Imagine, everyone is waiting for October, and the name of the bridge was to be Don Louis the First. So His Majesty Louis the First. And in October, imagine, on his birthday, he's in Lisbon. He forgot totally about the opening of the bridge. He forgot that the people was waiting for him. And the people got so furious that they removed, from the name of the bridge, they removed His Majesty. And the bridge was called Louis First only. So for the people of Porto, he's only Louis and not a king. This is a short, funny story told by locals about their character, about their state of mind. I'll say they're very genuine, they're very open, they're very friendly. But in case you're doing something wrong, they will not hide that back there and will talk when you're not there. They will tell you always in front. And this is kind of a respect, and the people like that genuinity of being direct, being frontal, and telling the things how they are. So even in the case of the king, they did that. And I would like to show these beautiful boats that back in time used to carry barrels with port wine from the Douro Valley to Porto, because all the trade happened here. If reminding how the port wine history started, we will go back to the 17th century when some merchants from Liverpool came to the Douro Valley. They saw a monk that secretly put some spirit into the wine during the fermentation, and as a result, they got a sweet fortified wine that they really liked. Before that, of course, English already used to trade and to bring wine from Portugal, but that used to be a dry red wine plus with some spirit, a fortified dry red wine that was not so agreeable compared to this sweet and nice port that we know today. In Douro Valley, the river had very dangerous passage between some zones because there was no control of the river as we have today with dams. And per norma, these small boats, as you can see on the other side, they're working as museum pieces. They're pretty small and they have some barrels over there, reminding us how the port was transported from Douro Valley to Porto to be sold right here, because we're not very far from the Atlantic on the moment. And on this side of the city, it was easier for the traders and merchants to load uh, all these goods and to export them to England. Of course, with time, then we had the train, and nowadays we have these big machines with cisterns that will transport the port from Douro Valley. And what to do with these boats? We cannot just, I don't know, destruct them or giving them to that word we know as trash. No. So we rebuild them, as you can see, and we managed to create some, I would say, touristic boats or a sort of attraction. You can always do that, and I recommend you to do that, to take this 45 minutes journey on a boat It will cost you only around 13 or maybe 15 euros, and you can admire six bridges. That's how the journey is called. Or if you are a wine connoisseur and a wine aficionado, as people say today, with a boat like this one, you can go directly to the Douro Valley, to the home of port wine. And on another bank, we see already a city called Vila Nova de Gaia. Vila Nova de Gaia, the city satellite of Porto, where are located the main sellers of some important traders such as Sandman, Ramos Pinto, Calem, Grahams, Taylors, Noval, Porto Cruz, and Porto is stored here for a long time. It used to be aged for 10, for 20, and even for 40 years. And you always can visit a cellar. But my suggestion will be to visit a cellar first, for example, any of the cellar, despite the fact that I do really enjoy how port is presented at Churchill's. I think that'll be pretty easy for you to remember. Churchill's Estate. You find them a bit further, so you need to walk all that line with cellars. You go more, you go further, and over there you will find the cellar. It's not so far, it's pretty walkable. That's about 20 minutes, and it's always agreeable close to the river to do that walk. But after visiting a cellar, I always recommend to wine lovers to visit the Douro Valley, to visit the hometown of Port, to see how everything happens over there, to admire the vines, to get in touch with a winemaker directly, to put some questions to him, and to get some local cuisine made by an old woman that knows all that recipes from even 20th century. And I'll show a bit more of the Ribeira houses right here. So, as I told you, as a piece of the cake, you have some pretty old stone walls, and then you have houses built up there step by step. So, this is that sort of the cake with multi layers that will help us to get back to old centuries. And about the bridge, I was about to tell you that the bridge still works today. You have the lower level right here. On the lower level, there are cars passing by, so the vehicles can circulate on this part. Also, the people uh, can walk. You have always a line where you can walk over here. But of course, the most interesting part is up there. So the up layer, and on the upper part, there's a metro. There's a metro circulating, and also you can walk up there. And in fact, I was thinking to show you the city from up there, but I'll tell you one thing. If you're on a phone, if you're recording a video, there's so much wind that you will you'll not be able to listen something. That's why I decided you just to recommend that place, and do it please. This is sort of must do when you're in Porto. It's pretty close to the cathedral where I started this video. You just need to walk a bit further on the opposite side, and you're already on the bridge. You can walk and take some amazing picture over Porto, and you can admire Porto from that position. It's just fascinating, and you'll never forget that picture, I'm sure. And remember, on the festivity of 23, 23rd, and 24th of June, you can enjoy all the uh, beautiful things Porto has to show you, including locals. You can mix around them and be part of the local culture. And on 24th, just remembering about these boats that used to carry barrels with port from Douro Valley, It's a very nice tradition by port traders every year on 24th of June, and I hope this year they will do that again. These Rabello boats, that's how we call them, Rabello. These Rabello boats with emblems of the brands of houses are organizing a rally on the river. They're organizing a course, a competition, a circuit where every year somebody will win, and that's always in the morning of 24th of June. A bit more to show you some more boats. If you're a fan of churches, cathedrals, especially in Romanesque style, in the Gothic style, you can always find that in Porto, just right here in the center. Some beautiful chapels, some beautiful paintings. If you are a gastronomy and wine lover, oh God, that's heaven here in Porto, and in fact, the whole Portugal. If you like windsurf, you like surf, you like activities linked to the sea or to the Atlantic, there's plenty of there. Also, right here in Porto, and of course, all along the coast. Okay, and before I'll end this journey and I'll wish you to come to Portugal faster possible, I would like to remind you that every day Join Pro is organizing these online journeys to show you all the beauty of the world. Join Pro is doing just a great job of training you guys and showing you this activity. And plus, don't forget, they're offering always a 100 bucks in these times. This such a great opportunity to answer some questions, to have some luck. And by the way, to have some luck, I'll probably recommend you to ask that for Saint John, because the patron of Porto is Saint John. So just think about Saint John, ask him some luck, and you'll definitely probably win on this competition. Tomorrow, for example, Join Pro will organize, at the same time, they'll organize an very exceptional online journey in an old city in Russia called Kolomna. I'll be there, I'll admire that because it's beautiful, and I invite you guys also to participate on that. About the competition and about these $100, as I told you at the start, you just need to be active in commentaries. You need to answer to my questions, and after 1 hour in comments, you will see who was the winner. The winner will be chosen by a generator of numbers, so that will be randomly. As I said, you will of course need some luck. And at this note, with this view on Gaia City and a bit of Porto, I'm telling you good luck, guys. I hope that I'll just turn the camera. Yes, of course, you always need to answer correctly. So you get answers, but you're missing some facts and you're missing some info. Of course, that will not help. So correct, and and I think we can actually check if you answered correctly or not. So the first question was, Porto is located on a river called, it's on my back, the river Douro, of course, the river Douro. The river Douro is one of the longest on Iberian Peninsula, and it starts in Spain. Imagine, probably have heard about that wine region called Ribera del Duero. Of course, it's also very close to Douro River. That's why the name. The second question was about gastronomy, and I asked you, what's the famous sandwich Porto is known for? You had some options. Of course, bifana is tasty. Prego, it's also very tasty. And cachorro, actually, it's a hot dog. And it's good, yes. But Porto is famous for francesinha. And when in Porto, You can always ask me, you can invite me. I'll tell you everything about Francesina and a funny story why this sandwich was called This Small French Girl. The third question was about port wine. Never mind. The first question actually was, you see, because of the sun, I'm already missing. The first question, yes, was about bridges. I asked you which bridge is attributed, which of the six bridges of Porto, there are six bridges, which of these six is attributed to Gustav Eiffel talent? And the correct answer is the bridge, or ponte in Portuguese, Bridge Maria Pia. At the time, Maria Pia was queen in Portugal, and the bridge was named after her and is attributed to Gustav Eiffel. I'll show just on a moment again the bridge, because this one you see a lot of times, even most of the guys unfortunately are saying that is attributed to Gustav Eiffel. Is not. This one you see reminds you the style of Gustav Eiffel. Yes, have some connection with Eiffel, a very small in fact, but the bridge, it belongs to the talent of Theophile Seyrig, an engineer from Belgium, actually. Then the fourth question was about uh, port wine. Of course, port wine, as you can see back there, is aged in those cellars, sometimes for centuries. But Porto is not made here in the city. Of course, we have no vines here. We have architecture, we have buildings, we have beautiful people, we have the river, we have quite everything, but not vines. And the vines are located in the Douro Valley. Exactly. This same river, I'm going to show again, this same river flows if in that direction. That will be a counterflow actually, because the river per norma flows in this direction, and after about 5-6 kilometers it will meet the Atlantic Ocean. So if we go back to the source of the river from here, from Porto, taking this boat and going through one, two, three, four, five bridges and flowing for more 100 kilometers, we will arrive to the Douro Valley, where in 2001 UNESCO declared it as an World Heritage for the monumental beauty of the landscape, of the nature. So Douro Valley, it's the place where port wine actually is made. And then the sixth question was about capital. And I introduced one of my word about unfortunately, because Porto, the right answer for the question, which of these cities, unfortunately, had never the status of capital, is Porto. I'm saying unfortunately because such a beautiful city, such an important city for this country, considered the capital of the north, but this is, capital of the north, was never the capital of the Kingdom of Portugal or Portugal as a modern state. Never. Very important city, yes, but never a capital. Despite the fact that it deserves, and if some of you guys been in Porto, you probably understand me that it really deserves. I'm not saying that Lisbon is not good, of course, no. And there's so many beautiful cities in this country, so different, so original, so genuine. But Porto, and you will agree with me when you will visit it, you'll say yes, Porto probably deserves the status of the capital. And on this last note, I'm wishing you luck and see you in Porto or in Portugal.